Hi, and welcome to the Phins podcast, the podcast that gets you closer to the game than the sheds. I'm Mitch, and if you bleed red, white, and gold, you're in the right place. Every week, right off the back of the game day, we're breaking down everything Dolphins, what clicked, what didn't, and everything in between. No fluff, no filter, just real talk about our boys from Ready. So whether you caught the game live, watched it back, or you're relying on us to tell you what happened, strap in, because we're fanatics here. This is Fins Up. Let's get into it. 8 in a row, boys. We have done it. We have come into the top 4 and we've cemented our spot here. We don't want to leave this top of the end of the ladder. We are now 24 points. We are equal with Warriors and Roosters in the top 4. The thing that's keeping us in third is our for and against at 131, the Warriors at 168. And as of recording this, the Panthers lost to the Cowboys last night. So it is Sunday morning. It is 7:40 a.m. And the Panthers are now only 2 wins ahead of the rest of the top 4. So it's an exciting time of the year. Now, we do have Warriors entering the bye and the Roosters entering the bye. So we must win next week against the Knights. Before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's just crack back into the game. There was 40,000 people that showed up yesterday afternoon, Saturday afternoon football. 40,465. And you know what I love about that? The previous night, the Broncos had 39,000. So I think for the first time in the Dolphins' history, for a Dolphins home game that wasn't against the Broncos, I think we actually beat the numbers that the Broncos recorded as in attendance. And I've already got the comments that, it was raining on the Friday night. Yeah, every single time it's rained, I've showed up to the Dolphins play. So if a little bit of rain keeps the Broncos fans away, then yeah, their season is truly gone. But here we are. We're on the other side of a very close game. And look, to be honest, I think we were, majority of that game, better than the Warriors. There were a few moments there where the Warriors did have the ball for a lot longer. And some of that was, our own fault. We came out after halftime and dropped a lot of balls. However, Selwyn Cobbo had probably his most mixed game of the season. He uncharacteristically dropped, I think it was about 3 balls. I think he made 3 errors. I'd have to check the stats closely to see that one. However, he scores the first try and probably would have been the second try if the ref had sent it up as a try. But because the second try that Selwyn tried to get in the corner got sent up as a no try, the bunker had to agree with the ref. Because from the angles that I've seen, it looked like he still had fingertips on the ball as he put the ball down in the corner. But, it is what it is. If that was called a try, then, yeah, it would probably even with the Warriors' first try. So Jacob Laban, he catches a ball off a kick, and it definitely looks like it comes loose. And, the definition that the bunker used for Cobbo's second try probably should have followed suit, which was the bunker said that Cobbo didn't ground the ball with force, which I thought was that rule had disappeared. Like at the start of the season, I thought, or even last year, I thought you didn't need downward pressure. You just needed to be in control and still have a fingertip. But now, all of a sudden, it's downward pressure again. So not sure what's happening there, but yes, Jacob Laban from the Warriors looked like he lost the ball as he came down with it, and didn't look in control, didn't look like he grounded it, but it is what it is. We move on. Herbie Farnworth, Warriors actually try and claim an obstruction for this one, and yeah, it's just it wasn't an obstruction. Like he was probably a good 15 meters away from where a block player was, and the Warriors just kind of stood around him. He didn't impede anyone. And Herbie was running a line that was going outwards instead of inwards towards where the block player was. So yeah, that was our second try. Um, we then came out after half time and we put two quick tries on. And then we started making errors. And this is where the game actually started to shift back the other way. Um, so the tries so far, we had Selwyn Cobbo at the 4 minute, Jacob Laban for the Warriors at the 7th, Dallin Wateni-Zelezniak at the 17th minute. Both of the Warriors' tries have come off of kicks at this stage. And then we had Herbie Farnworth at the 23rd minute. Throw into this mix at the 12th minute, our halfback Isaiah Katoa goes off for a wrist or arm injury. So we'll await scans to see what the extent of that injury is, but it may be up to 6 weeks of sideline. And somewhere in this first half, Selwyn Cobbo actually goes off for a HIA. So we lose our halfback and we lose our winger for a good portion of the first half. And we find out later that Isaiah Katoa doesn't end up coming back. So we essentially play out of position for a bit of the first half, and we play our backup halfback in Brad Schneider, who, as you've heard, I don't necessarily like him that much. I think his passes are, they're not on point. He doesn't look where he's passing, and that actually came back to fruition in the second half. So, but yes, back to this. Osako scores on the 38th minute. Half time, we come out and score in the 49th minute, and then we have a bit of back and forth arm wrestle here. And then Chance, Nickel Klukstad goes over in the corner for the Warriors in the 60th minute. And then at this point, I think it was 18-20 when Chance scored. And then it's a good another like 10, 15 minutes of arm wrestle. A lot of decisions as well that probably should have gone the way of the Dolphins in terms of six against. But most of the game was fairly well refereed. There were a lot of extra pushes in the ruck, a lot of crowding. What didn't seem to get called, like the Dolphins definitely got the worst side of the stats. So the Dolphins made 14 errors to the Warriors 12. In terms of the actual negative stats, this has the Warriors at 2 penalties conceded, and I think these were for high tackles. Because that's the other thing about this Warriors pack. They are big, they are aggressive, and we couldn't really match the aggression, especially once our small pack was on. And because we lost our halfback, it meant that Kafusi didn't end up playing any minutes. So we had to run with a fairly small rotation compared to their big guys. So, in the second half, we had Ray Stone as the prop running off the back fence. And, he would make contact and, the initial few half a second, he wouldn't move. But then once the Warriors boys packed in, there was no stopping them pushing him back. So the other part of this was the ruck infringements. Now, the stats show that we only had 3 and the Warriors had 4. A lot of their ruck infringements actually came from whenever we made a break downfield and they needed to reset their line, they would strategically give away a 6 again to get their line set. So this doesn't actually show the actual count as accurately as it should be, which is there's probably only, the 3 of ours that we received were off the back of breaks or areas in the field where they actually just held us down for too long. The ruck infringements given away by the Warriors, or, that they actually received, sorry, those ones were just typical Dolphins making defensive decisions, either being, holding them down on tackles that were, a strong tackle or dominant tackle, as they call it, um, or they were called in parts where the ref just, I don't know, it you couldn't see what the reason was. You just heard ruck infringement, 6 again. And to really know what happened, you'd probably have to go through and watch the game again on the TV. However, being there live, you don't really get an explanation on what the ruck infringement is. And from live, you can't see what caused it. So yeah, in terms of the actual calls, fairly even. The numbers don't represent exactly what the story was, where ruck infringements in favor of the Dolphins were given away for the Warriors to reset their line, which, the smart teams do that. They give away a 6 again, if they've made a break and they don't have a team on side. So in terms of possession, it was, almost 50-50. The Warriors had more ball. In terms of completion rate, technically the Dolphins had 45 sets, but only completed 35. So that's 77%. The Warriors had 40 sets with 32 completed sets, and that's 80%. So fairly close, fairly even game in terms of possession, in terms of having the ball, in terms of running with the ball, and whatnot. So probably the stat that shows the game closer than it was obviously the two first tries from the Warriors. And the first try, yep, controversial, whatever. It is what it is. The second try is just Selwyn Cobbo came in from the wing to jump for the ball. Dallin stayed out on his wing. So as soon as the ball came back to the Warriors, they just passed it straight out to Dallin, and he was uncontested, went over in the corner. So when the Dolphins then came back in the second half, because at this stage, I believe it was around 12-10, something like that, or 10-all in the first half, but it was very close going into the second half. But then we scored a last, on the 38th minute, Osako scores, and I think we end up going up into the shed 16-12 or 16-10. So it was already quite a close first half. We came out and yeah, there was a bit of arm wrestle back and forth. But for the first 10 minutes of that second half, we came out and we were on fire. Like we looked in control in the second half for the first 10 minutes, and going into the second half, probably the last 20 minutes going into halftime, we looked dominant. We looked, and this could have been the Warriors' rotation at that stage. Mitch Barnett's probably off. Some of the other big boys are probably off the field. And yeah, we looked in control. We looked fairly dominant. Some of the passes didn't land in that second half. When we had possession, we made a very good break down the field. Brad Schneider gets the ball. He passes it, this was to the left of the field at one stage. He passes it to the left. The ball hits the ground and just nothing happens. Another time, we make the break up the field and they are shot. The Warriors have no line set. We've probably got a two-man overlap on the right-hand side of the field. The ball starts coming out, goes through, I think it goes, straight from hooker to Cody Nikarima to Max Plath, and then out to Schneider. And Schneider, rather than passing it, he just takes a step infield and completely shuts down the play. And then that's it. Like, there was a try-scoring opportunity right there. And, these things, we can't afford to go into finals not being able to ice them. And, I can hear the excuses of, he's not the main halfback and whatnot. He's still played plenty of footy. He's played under the Canberra Raiders. He's played under the Penrith Panthers. And I think he's won a premiership with the Penrith Panthers. So the excuse of, he's still not the main halfback, blah, 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 doesn't work. You're in first grade. You should know where you're looking to pass. You can't just pass the ball and it hit the ground and be okay with that. You've got to know who you're passing to. Or you can't have the defense weren't in his face when he decided not to pass this ball. He had plenty of space to pass and dig into the line and pass out to Bostock and Bostock then to Osako. Like it would have been a simple one-on-one, draw in the winger and then pass it out to Osako. And that's what Bostock does. He's done that for the last probably 6 weeks. And he's copped a few hits for it. Like I'm talking about the Warriors game when, not the Warriors, sorry, the Cowboys game going back, a month or so. He copped a big hit in the ribs, but you know what? We scored the try and we won that game. And so this is what we need to focus on. If Katoa's going to be out for the next, 6 weeks or so, Schneider really needs to understand where he's passing and who he's passing to, and not make the decisions that can lead to a try. Like you can't just take a step in field and say, "Oh, I didn't feel like passing it that way." Like throw the pass. We could, there's an opportunity there that we can take advantage of to score a try. If you don't take advantage of the opportunities that present themselves, you won't know the outcome. So instead, we knew the outcome of him stepping in field, which was the defense was there. So, yeah, in terms of where we need to be better, we need to be better in those small areas where it's probably the last 5% of the game. We had too many errors last night. So 14 errors is not enough in finals. We need to be higher. So I had to pause because my son's come in and we were at the game yesterday. What did you think of the game?
The Dolphins win.
The Dolphins win. Yeah.
And we win.
We did. And we beat the Warriors.
And we beat the Warriors.
Yeah. So, I'll leave it here because we had a good game. We've gotten the 2 points. We know what we need to focus on. Yeah, we had a good time yesterday at the game. The Warriors fans that showed up was awesome. To get 40,000 people in the stadium. Was it loud yesterday at the game?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you saw the fireworks, and yeah, it was just a good. It was
and the
good.
trumpet.
And the trumpets, yeah, the trumpets played, and
I said.
Yeah, so thank you, Warriors fans, showing up. 40,000 people in attendance. Probably half of those were Warriors fans. Like it was very loud when Sam Healy went over in the corner and got the Warriors the lead. I've probably never, other than when it's been Broncos versus Dolphins, I've never heard it that loud. Haven't been privileged to go to an Origin game yet, so yeah, I'm sure it gets louder during State of Origin in the Cauldron, but. Yeah, yesterday was just phenomenal. A great game, great close contest. Dolphins probably could have been better to get further ahead. But yeah, here we go. Like we're going to make a run now into the finals. Hopefully, Katoa is okay, and it's just a dislocation of his wrist, and he can get back into playing with this squad. Because obviously, we don't want too much of his combination with Nikorima to disappear. We need that game time. We need that confidence going into finals. And yeah, hopefully we can get the job done against the Knights next week. Majority of our Origin players will probably be in camp. So hopefully we can get the job done against the Newcastle Knights next week. It is State of Origin weekend. So a lot of the teams get the bye. Our boys will be entering camp, so we'll probably have between 5 to 7 players out, 5 for State of Origin, 7 including potentially some injuries, such as Katoa. Hopefully he can get on the mend and it's just a dislocation in his wrist, and hopefully we can get the job done. So yeah, until the next time, I'll be coming back straight after the Knights game to give the thoughts. Hopefully it's 9 wins in a row at that stage, and we'll be set prime, ready for the final season going into over the next 8 weeks or so. So yeah, thanks for listening and have a good one. And that's a wrap on another episode of Phins Up. If you enjoyed the breakdown, do us a favour and hit subscribe. Drop us a review and share it with a fellow Dolphins fan. It genuinely helps more than you'd think. Do you have a hot take? Do you think we got it wrong? Discuss with us on our social media page at Phins Up Podcast. We'd love to hear from you. We'll be back after the next game with a full breakdown, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss it. Until then, stay loud, stay proud, and keep those fins up.